Hi, I'd like to welcome you to the April safety meeting. This recording is part of Beach Transportation's ongoing training for school bus drivers. So to get us started, I'd like to share my PowerPoint with you. And make myself a little bit bigger. Okay, today we're going to talk about hazards that occur mostly in the spring. Winter has its own challenges, but spring also has a few things that are a little different than what you usually have in the fall. So we're going to cover those. That includes road conditions, changing weather, allergies, fatigue, construction zones, bikes, motorcycles, and pedestrians, and student behavior. So conditions. I don't know if any of you have roads like that, but there are a few that are breaking up like that in the spring. So if you have to drive on a road like that, how would you do that safely? The possibilities of driving on a road like this, it could damage your vehicle, a wheel, a tire, the suspension, tie rods. It could be very hazardous for your bus itself. So if you have to drive on a road like that, what are your best options? And yes, that's correct. You want to try to avoid the worst of the holes, the biggest ones, multiples, and you want to go slow if you have to go down through there. So this is possibly going to set you back a little bit on your route. But road conditions can be a problem in the spring for sure. Okay, weather. Changing conditions of the weather. Here in Missoula, we can have fog in the morning. We can have little sunshine around lunchtime. We can have a squall of snow in the afternoon, or it can be sunny, and that can all happen in a day's time. So weather conditions in the spring can be very erratic. So we're going to talk about how those conditions affect your driving, but then also how they affect the students, especially pickups and drop-offs, what you need to be alert for as we get into those conditions. So this is rain. I can't, there we go. So rain when you're driving, how does that affect your driving? First of all, you've got decreased visibility. If it's a heavy rain, you'll have windshield wipers going, which can be a little bit distracting, but also decreasing your visibility. The road traction decreases, so you need to slow down a little bit. General awareness needs to increase. Rain with your students. Now, if you were a little kid and you saw the bus coming and it's raining and it's just a mess, you might rush to the bus without waiting for the proper signals or waiting for the bus to stop. So watch your little people as you get closer to them. They could slip either on the roadway, but especially on the stairs. Coming and going. Once those stairs get a little bit of water on them, they become pretty slippery. So it's a good time to remind them to hold on to the handrails, watch their step. Then we've had multiple students with umbrellas, and they want to bring those on the bus. And of course, in they come with this big umbrella with the sharp little points on the corner, and they're trying to get it closed up. Water's going everywhere. It's best if they close that before they come on the bus. just as far as damaging someone, poking them, but also for all the water that comes with those umbrellas. Okay, puddles with your driving. Going through a puddle like this person is could be pretty hazardous. You don't always know how deep those big potholes are that have the puddles in them. When you splash the windows of the bus, you're going to lose visibility momentarily. So that could be a hazard. And look at this poor car over here that's getting splashed. They're for sure going to lose visibility as they come up on you. So they could lose control and run into you or into the post or whatever. So be a little slower through those puddles. I know this was always fun when I was, younger driving a car, but try to avoid the big splashes with your buses. So slow down, be a little more careful. How do puddles affect your students? Well, if I was a kid, this kind of kid I'd be doing. This is what I'd be doing, waiting for the bus. Of course, he's equipped for it. He's got his boots, he's got his raincoat. They can be a big distraction for your younger students. When you load and when you unload, make sure that the kids aren't having to walk through puddles to get on the bus or to get off the bus. Most kids don't show up at the bus stop with their rain boots and the raincoat. They're usually in tennis shoes, and having to walk through a puddle could be a pretty bad deal. Okay, fog and driving. This is probably one of the hardest situations to drive in. Besides a big blizzard, it's pretty comparable because fog limits your visibility and it distorts things around you. You're not able to see your landmarks. You're not sure where you are on your bus route, where the streets are. So you might have to run a little bit late because you can't drive as fast. It's going to be hard to see your passengers. So slow down, take your time, and be safe about the whole thing. And for your students, of course, they can't see the bus coming. They might get too close to the roadway, not paying attention, looking for that bus, kind of waiting for it. They might move out into an unsafe place. So watch for your students. One, you can see them when you finally can get up to them. Fog has been, for a couple of our students in the past, been kind of scary just because they can't see, and it's kind of like being in the dark. So just be aware. I think the biggest thing is not seeing where these students are to load or unload. Hey, freezing rain. Sometimes freezing rain will cause a 2-hour delay in our busing. Because it is so icy and we have to go so slow, we sometimes will call for a 2-hour delay on the busing. They may not do that for the entire school, but for those who are bused. Loading and unloading can be very hazardous. We've had kids slip under the bus as they've approached the bus. We've had kids slip as they get off the bus at the school. And then, of course, driving uphill and downhill can be really hard because your bus doesn't have ice skates on, has no grip. The traction is decreased. All right, freezing rain for your students, we pretty much covered, but walking hazard for sure. They could fall, they could get hurt. It's just really hazardous. Caution them to go slow, take little steps. Okay, spring, snow, and driving. You have to get back in the winter mode, which means slow down, give more space, more following distance so you can react to what the other vehicles are doing. This, like I said, can come on very quickly. And it can be in the same day that we've had a nice sunny morning, or maybe it starts out like this and then it turns into a sunny morning. Okay, for the students, spring snow brings mud and slush and junk, and that can create quite a mess in your bus. That can cause slippage up for the students. And they may be unprepared if it happens in the afternoon and they showed up with a sweater. So just be aware. This is another really hard thing to drive in sometimes is early morning glare. That sun's just right in your face. And if it's a bright, sunny day, it's hard to see. It's hard to see the cars around you, if there's any people walking, if there's dogs, if there's students. Very limiting in your visibility. It's really good to have a pair of sunglasses on your bus that you can put on any time, if it's the afternoon, if it's in the early morning with this sun. Sunglasses are probably your best option here. Okay, allergies. Many of us, and I'm not talking about the kids here, I'm talking about you as a driver. Spring allergies tend to get pretty bad, and I don't know about you, but I've got just a little bit of something that bugs me in the spring. I don't have hay fever or anything, but when you don't feel good, you're distracted in your driving. You're more focused on your clogged head or your sniffly nose, and it distracts you from paying that alert attention that you normally would. Of course, there is medication you can take, but I want to caution you that some of this allergy medicine can cause drowsiness. It can help you feel way not alert, very distracted feeling. So please be aware if you're taking allergy medicine as to what you're taking. Make sure it's non-drowsy, and think about how it affects you. Spring and summer in Montana is construction season, and we're going to have construction that's already started here in the valley. Construction is just a place where you have to slow down and be more careful. Don't rush through the spot. So, but what if it affects your bus route? It's good to, yeah, donuts, my phone's going off. Just a sec. Excuse me. If it affects your bus route, you're going to have to adjust that route. And sometimes you don't know that it's going to start until you're right on top of it. At that point, you're going to have to pick the safest spot to unload those students. If you need advice, call the office. If that construction is going to be in that area for a while, you're going to need to find a new place and let the students know that you're picking them up a half block away or a block away, so that they know. But don't unload your students right in the middle of a construction area. Okay, route times will probably be affected. If you can reroute, if you're on a major throughway, a main street, and you're going to and from, and you don't have drop-offs there, it might be good to avoid that area until the construction's over. Pickups and drop-off points can be affected, and you'll have to let the riders know about that. Okay, as drivers in a construction zone, you need to drive cautiously and slowly around the workers and the machines. Sometimes as they get focused on their work, they forget about the traffic that's around them. And we don't want to be the cause of an accident because they stepped out in front of us or backed out in front of us. So please be watchful and careful. Give them the right of way, yield to whatever they're doing. Then be flexible and patient. And like I said, this may slow your route down. You've got to be patient and flexible with that. Okay, bikes and motorcycles, we're already starting to see an influx of bikes and motorcycles and students walking to and from school now that the weather's nice. So that means we need to be more careful. Why do you think that sometimes they're hard for us to see? You pull up to an intersection, you look both ways, and you start across, and all of a sudden there's a bike there, or a pedestrian or a motorcycle. Our brains are wired to see what our minds tell them to look for. Our eyes see that. And when you're used to looking for just cars and trucks, your brain sometimes doesn't identify the bikes and the motorcycles to you. They're there and you did see them, but it doesn't register because you're focused on cars. So look a little extra, program in your brain now to look for bikes and motorcycles. Bikes and motorcycles don't always follow the rules. They move quick. Young riders don't pay attention. Older riders think that they can get around you, so they don't always follow the rules. We've got to be the bigger person or the better, safer driver to protect them from themselves and their actions. Okay, to be safe and to keep them safe, we have to share the road. So please slow down, please watch, and rock in your seat and be extra careful. Okay, pedestrians, more and more students are walking or playing outside, and they don't always think about looking before they cross the street. So watch for pedestrians if you see children, especially playing around your bus or in the area that you're traveling through. Adults also can be outside now working in their yards, walking dogs. Just be aware. Give them wide space, go slow around them. Make sure they see you or try to have them see you if they're going across in front of you. Okay, student behavior seems to take a little nosedive in the spring. They're just a little bit more wound up. They're ready to be outside. They're ready to run off some energy. So be prepared for that. Be ready for it. We have a policy about, well, a suggestion that you keep your windows no more than halfway down. They do need air in those buses. It gets pretty warm in the spring as we get closer to summer. But if you're putting windows down, let them know right now as they start putting windows down that we only put our windows down halfway. That way they're not able to lean out the windows while you're at the school, and they're not as able to get garbage and things to throw out the windows if they're halfway. Just makes for better student behavior. Okay. Talk about skateboards and roller skates and equipment. Those are not allowed to be on the bus. And that's you may have had some skateboards already. It's been kind of a drier month this last month. But skateboards are not allowed on our bus. If they are encased in a case in their backpack and they're not able to fly around, if you have an accident, you probably won't even see them and you're not going to have a problem. But if they bring them on board and they're under their arm, we have to deny those skateboards. So you say, well, how's he going to get to school? How are they getting the student going to get to school if I won't let them on? That first time I usually say something like, okay, you can bring it on this morning, but I'm not, or today, but you can't have it after this. And I'll have them keep it up front and I'll stick it behind the garbage can so that it's not a flying projectile. Skateboards can be very dangerous if you're in an accident as they fly through the bus. So skateboards are not allowed. The students are full of energy. They've been in the classroom. They want to get out and be in the sunny weather. So their behavior definitely takes a little bit of a nosedive. To counteract that, right now is the time that you need to get up and go back over those rules. Let them know what's expected. Let them know that there's consequences for not obeying those rules. Kind of nip it in the bud before it gets out of hand, because I promise you that spring brings a little more energy to your students. Sometimes I have this problem, you get in a bus in the afternoon and it's warm and you've had lunch and you're a little sleepy. Make sure that as spring gets here, I know we've had the time change now. Hopefully you've been able to adjust to that pretty well. But make sure you get your sleep. It's getting lighter in the evenings. You're able to stay outside later. But try to get your sleep during the week so that you're not as sleepy in the afternoon when it gets warm. Maybe take a nap between your bus routes if you tend to be a sleepy afternoon person. And then don't wear heavy clothing that's going to make you to overheat and be more tired. In the afternoon, I'd take the sweater off and have a short sleeve shirt, or take your hoodie off. Don't wear your heavier coats. Okay, driver's behavior. We just talked about being tired. Because you are up later, because it's lighter, it's much easier to be tired. So be aware of that. Sometimes our attitude is starting to deteriorate. We've put up with these kids all year and you're ready to be finished. So try to avoid this. We still have a couple months left. Let's finish strong. Let's be alert and aware as we drive. At this point in our bus transportation, we start to become a little complacent. We've made it through the winter. We can kind of relax our vigilance with the road conditions a little bit. So we get to where we're just kind of driving on autopilot. Please try to be a little bit more aware. Fight this complacency. We still need to be responsible. We still need to drive that bus as safely as possible. Okay, let's talk about complacency, how to battle complacency just a little bit. I guess I'll go down here. So complacency is that feeling of contentment. Everything's great. I can do this. You're pleased with your ability. And you sometimes don't even see the danger or the hazard. We drive on autopilot. Some call it route hypnosis. Okay, here's how to fight back against that. One is get enough rest. Come to work, ready for your job. Getting oxygen. Now that the snow and ice is gone, it might be good to get out and get a little walk. Go walk in the mall if you don't like walking outside, but get a little fresh air to your brain. Get oxygenated. Engage your brain in activities that make it work a little bit. Do a crossword puzzle, do a word search, learn something new so your brain has to work a little harder. And then in your bus, drive one stop at a time. That means focus on picking up that student and then focus between that stop that you're at and the next one. Look for the hazards that are there. Double check that stop sign is where you believe it is. Look for pedestrians, look for bikes. Be aware between this stop and the next stop. And then it helps to develop a new good habit. We kind of worked on that last month. Hopefully you took that seriously and you've gone your 30 days and you've corrected a bad habit that you had. And now it's a good habit and you're doing things a little safer than you were. All of that helps your brain engage and stay alert. Okay, just a spring hazards recap. There's many changes in the spring as we come out of the winter season with the ice and snow. There's not the snow to contend with, but there's many other changes and hazards that come with the spring driving. That includes the roads and the weather, road conditions and the weather, the student behavior, your driving attitude, your alertness. Okay, I'd like to transition a little bit to field trip season. This is mostly for those of you who are new to extra trips or field trips. Just a few little guidelines as we do a trip that's away from our regular bus route. So some things to think about. Preparing for an extra trip, work orders, doing the paperwork involved with those work orders, and then managing the students on your bus. And the biggest one, well, not the biggest one, but one of the big things is finding your way to and from that new location that you're not used to going to. Okay. And then as you're going into an unfamiliar area, the hazards that are involved in that area. Okay, preparing for an extra trip. On the table in the employee lounge, there is an availability sheet. And there's like 5 pages now where we've got a lot of drivers. So if you would like an extra trip, please sign the availability sheet. Your name is in the order of your employment. So you might, if you're a new driver, you're probably on the last page toward the bottom. If you've been here for a while, you're probably in the middle. So sign up as to what your availability is. Then there's skills that a good field trip driver need. And oftentimes the dispatcher, Josh or Ann, will look at, if you have 2 drivers that are about the same, that they've been here about the same amount of time, they're going to look at your qualifications as a good driver. So they're looking for if you're professional, if you're polite, do you dress halfway decent, you know? Are you flexible with your attitude? Are you able to follow directions? Do you have a safety mindset? Are you out there driving trying to be as safe as possible? Or is it, oh, well, it's not a big deal. It's, you know, it's just not my vehicle. It's not a big, it's just a job. I'm just here for the paycheck. Those kind of people are not going to make good extra trip drivers or good field trip drivers. And then probably the most important is, can you think on your feet? Can you make good decisions when you're away from the office and you're away from supervision? Because that has to happen. That happens on almost every field trip, extra trip. You know, you get to a place and they want you to go into a parking lot, or they want you to go over a bridge, or there's just lots and lots of scenarios where you have to make that decision. You can't, you know, make a phone call or get on the radio. Sometimes you need to make that decision on your own. Okay, let's go over work orders or the paperwork. You're going to get a sheet of paper, or maybe 2 sheets of paper, that tell you where to pick up, what time to pick up, where you're going, and when you're coming back. And then it might have little notes about things that need to happen on that trip. Maybe it states that you're going to stay with the group, or they need a cooler, or you're going to be with 2 other buses. So look over all the pages, make sure you know all the information before you take off. Identify who you're picking up, when you're picking them up, and where you're going, and where you're picking them up. Some schools have different pickup locations depending on what group is going out of the school, whether it's an athletic event or a musical event or just a school class activity. Look for any important information. This is kind of what a work order looks like. This is Target Range School, 5th grade. The teacher was Tammy Tulberg. The driver was me at this point. There's my bus number. And I'm bus 1 of 1. That means there's just 1 bus going. And it's move 1 of 2. So there's somebody that's going to drop them off. That's probably me. And then there's somebody who's going to pick them up. And they have a different work order. It just says I'm on duty at 8:25. Then I'm going to put 8:25 on there. It says I'm supposed to pick up at 8:40. Well, let's say I get out there and at 8:40 they don't come out. And at 8:50 they don't come out. Finally, they get out there at about 9 o'clock. So I've waited. I was patient. They load up. I pick them up at 9 o'clock, and I put 9 o'clock on this line. Then I drop them off at 9:15 instead of 9 o'clock. So I put 9:15 here. And then I'm off duty at 9:45 instead of 9:30. So those are actual times, except for this first one. This report time, I put 8:25, but I was actually here at 8:15. I did a pre-trip. I made sure I had everything I needed on the bus and that it was ready to go. But my check-in time, my on-duty time was 8:25. And down in this section are those extra messages. It says load the group in front of the school, not the back, not the side. The driver will drop and return to get the group at 11:20. So evidently, I guess I'm going back to get them. The bus will be full with 54 passengers. Okay, and then before I leave the office, I'm going to put my starting odometer down here because that's going to keep track of my mileage. When I get back, I'll put the ending odometer and then the total miles and the route of travel. So Highway 12, well, Highway 93, and then Highway 12 to go to Travelers Rest. At the bottom, I sign this. There's a little section of this that says, remember, you're a professional driver. Think safely at all times and drive at a speed as dictated by the law and the conditions. And it goes through a little bit of a cautionary thing about what your responsibilities are. And then you sign that. If you've never read that, that's something you should read so you know what you're signing. This is a legal document. Kind of crazy to think of that. Okay. Well, this just goes through each, like we just did, in a bigger version so you can actually read it. Okay. So student management. When you're on a field trip, unless it is a field trip that just takes the students from a school to another school for a sporting event, it'll be different in that regard. But all safety rules still apply. So that means if you have a bus with seatbelts, the students should be in their seatbelts, including the chaperones. There should be a supervisor on the bus, and this is where it's different if you are taking a basketball group or a track group from one school to another. Their coach probably will be driving their own vehicle. They'll put the students on the bus, they'll drive their own vehicle, and then a lot of times the students get picked up at the end of the event by their parents. But if you're taking a field trip with a school group and they're going out of town, Teller Wildlife Refuge or the Peace Farm, they're going to have a teacher supervisor on the bus. If the students get out of hand, I'm going to turn around to that teacher and I'm going to say, hey, you know, those kids are standing up and throwing things out the window. Could you take care of that? And if the supervisor ignores you or says it's okay, well, it's not okay. You would need to pull over in a safe spot and take care of that behavior. Most of the time, that's not going to be an issue. The supervisor's going to say, oh, yeah, sorry, I wasn't watching. Okay, finding your way from here to there and back. Ask someone in the office if you don't know where you're going. If you've always driven to Lowell School, you may not know where Chief Charlo School is, or Washington School, or Meadow Hill. So please ask if you don't know. You also have lots of resources. If you have a smartphone, you have lots of resources. Streets and Trips is a good program, Google Earth. When I was just starting to take field trips, I would go take a drive out to the school or the place that I was supposed to pick them up, just because I didn't know all the schools. So take a drive, find out where you're going, where you can park, where a big bus is going to fit. Because it's an unfamiliar area, it's not that route that you drive every day. Sometimes we get into places that are very hazardous. We need to be aware of specific hazards and the ways that we can protect all four corners of our bus, the space around our bus, and our students. So the unfamiliar can be a little confusing, and that's where you need to be able to think a little bit on your own. Tight turnarounds. If you have to pull into a place that you've got to back up, or that you need to weave through cars or posts or parking fixtures, that can be very hazardous. Narrow roads with no shoulders that are almost one-way roads. You've got to be aware of those. Bridges and underpasses. Can you clear that overpass or that underpass you need to go under? Can you go over the bridge? Are you too heavy? Are you going to cave the bridge in? Gates and entrances sometimes cause us a lot of problems. We think we can go under them and then we can't, and then we rip off the top of the entrance. And then where do you park? When you get to that parking spot up at the trailhead, there might not be any other cars up there. But you know, then the group gets out and they take their hike, and maybe you go with them. Maybe you go out and wander around a little bit. Maybe you take a nap. And then when you wake up or you come back to the bus, there's cars surrounding your entire bus and you can't move. So be aware of where you can park, where you're not going to get blocked in, and where your bus is safe, where it's not going to get run into. Parking lots are really hazardous. We have many scratches and dents when we're trying to maneuver through parking lots. So if you can avoid parking lots, I would suggest you do that. If there's lots of space and you can go slow and careful through there, you know, go for it. But be very aware of what you're getting into before you enter that parking lot. Does it have a way to get out of it? Or are you going to have to maneuver through parked cars? And because you just don't turn as well as a car does. And you know that, but you can get in lots of trouble. Okay, field trip recap. Know where you're going and how to get there. Fill out your paperwork and then turn it in promptly. Oftentimes, well, your pay is generated from your paperwork. So if your paperwork doesn't get turned in, you're not going to get paid for that trip. And oftentimes, Josh will come in on the weekends and get those field trips worked up. So don't take your paperwork home. Finish it that day, that evening, and turn that paperwork in promptly. Don't hang on to it. Okay, use safe practices when you're backing and only back when necessary. Absolutely necessary. Safe practices mean you get out of your seat and you go back and look to see what's behind you, or have somebody spot for you while you're backing up. Beware of your bus height, your weight, and the width of your bus. Are you going to be able to go where they want you to go? Then in tight spots, slow way down, even to the stopping point, so you can see that each corner of your bus can clear the obstacle. Use your mirrors more and use them as they're designed to help you clear obstacles. And then remember, parking lots are not our friends. Okay, last thing we're going to cover today is emergency evacuations. In the employee lounge, I've posted a sign-off sheet, and I've posted several announcements that our spring evacuations need to be done by the 28th of this month. No, that's March. Let me look at my calendar real quick. The 25th of April. So you have a whole month to do your evacuations. I noticed that 3 of you already have your evacuations done for the spring drills. We're going to go over the procedure real quick. If you're a new driver and you need more information, please come and visit with me and we can talk about your bus and your situation and the schools that you service. So, before you conduct your evacuation, this is not a surprise drill. This is an evacuation to help the students know and to help the drivers and the attendants on the buses know what to do in emergency and be able to practice that. So have a pre-plan. Prepare the students a day or two before. Let them know that they're going to have an evacuation, and tell them that you're going to use the back door or the front door, or you're going to split in the middle of a big bus and do half out the front and half out the back. All of those are acceptable. Show them where the exits are. Show them the emergency equipment. So where the fire extinguisher is, where the radio is. And on a big bus, you should have a student that sits up toward the front that's responsible, that can operate a walkie-talkie or the radio. Show them where the first aid kit is. Designate helpers for the exit that you're going to use. So, for example, if you're going to use the front exit, you're going to want 2 helpers. You want 1 helper to go out the door first and remind the students to go down the stairs safely. Then you're going to want, and to point them to where they're going to go. You want that second helper to get out first and go to a designated spot that the whole group of students is going to go. If you're using the back exit, you should have 3 helpers, 2 that get out and help people sit down on the floor and hop out, and 1 to go to the designated meeting spot. That can probably be a little confusing if you haven't done that before, but come and visit with me. Let them know that during the drill, you're not going to take their backpacks and instruments. The purpose is to get them out of a bus quickly and safely. and you'll come back on the bus and then get their backpacks and instruments and whatever else, lunches. Okay, inform them that if they're using the back door exit, they must sit down on the floor and hop out, even in a small bus. The adults, the kids, should not be jumping from the top out the door. They should sit on the floor and hop out. Okay, here's the procedure. So the day of your evacuation, you're going to stop in a safe place, and that might be the school. That might be a place on your route that you can get completely off the road. Then you're going to open the door, the walking door. You're going to turn off the key and take the key with you. Now, you don't necessarily have to evacuate out that front door. Let's say you're going to evacuate out the back door. You still want to open the front door because you need a way back into your bus instead of crawling through the back door. So open the front door, turn off the key, and take it with you. Let's say we're going to go out the back door. You're going to go to the back and you're going to dismiss your 3 helpers. You're going to tell the person who's leading the group to the designated spot where the spot is that everybody's going to meet. On this drill, don't make it too far away. Just, we're going to go to the telephone pole right there. And then have that person go there, have your other 2 helpers get out first and stand on either side of that back door and help people as they come out so they don't fall. Designated a spot to meet, and then you're going to dismiss the passengers. You are at the back door. You're going to walk back through the bus, dismissing the right seat, the left seat, the right seat, the back seat, until you get entirely back up to the very front. At that point, you're going to walk back through and exit yourself. If it was a real emergency, that's the time I'd grab that first aid kit. Okay. If it's a real emergency and you're evacuating, secure the bus, notify base. On your drills, please don't call and notify the office that you're doing an emergency drill. I will be contacting 911 for this entire month of April because we have people in the community call us or call 911 and say, there's a bus on the side of the road and it's evacuating the students. What's the emergency? And they'll get people all riled up. So I call 911 and let them know that April, the 3 weeks in April, we're doing evacuations. But if it's a real emergency, secure the bus and notify the office that you have an emergency and you're evacuating. You can use the front door and the back door at the same time. Split them in the middle, send half out the front, half out the back, if it's a big emergency. Otherwise, just be calm and evacuate using the front or the back, whichever is the quickest and farthest away from the emergency. Have the students move farther away from the bus than you do in your drill. It might be a quarter of a block, it might be a half a block, depending. Just so they're away from the bus and it's safe. And then evacuate quickly and as safely as possible. That's if it's real. Okay, lastly, spring challenges. There's many things to watch for in the spring. Please adapt to the road conditions, adapt to the weather conditions that change. Continue your student management, reinforce what you've been trying to accomplish all year. It's time to remind them again what your expectations are. Take care of yourself, get a little extra sleep, be conscious of rest and being ready to drive. If you get a field trip, be prepared to take that field trip and do a great job. Have a good time. And then practice those evacuations. And I have here they're due by the 29th. We'll just up that to the 25th. Thank you very much for driving. Couldn't do it without you. Let's put a little spring in our drive, not our step, but in our drive. And be safe and be aware out there. Thanks again. If you are watching this for beach transportation, remember to fill out your summary sheet and get that turned in. Until next month, drive safely.